All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am so excited to have this conversation today with Matt Dallins. Matt is a Pilates client of mine, and a Rossiter client of mine as well. And his story is pretty phenomenal. I think it's pretty incredible. And what I maybe just a little caveat here, and maybe I'll introduce myself as well, and then I'll ask you to introduce yourself as well, Matt, and kind of just like start to share maybe a little bit of whatever you'd like to start with. My name's Chantel, and I own a wellness studio called A Beautiful SurpriZe. We have a brick and mortar in a suburb of Salt Lake City. But through the beauty of Zoom and Facebook, we teach all over the world to people every single day virtually. And what Matt's here today to talk about his story and how he found us and how he's feeling today versus maybe hearing Pilates for the first time in his life. Is that fair to say?
That's fair. Yeah. Yeah.
So my little caveat here that I wanted to touch upon was that your story, I think for someone hearing it for the first time that maybe has never done Pilates before, or maybe has done Pilates before, and it wasn't absolutely life changing, altering, right moment, like this pivotal moment in your life, that maybe your story could help encourage someone to try somewhere else, try whether it's A Beautiful SurpriZe or somewhere else, because it's pretty magical. And I say that in the most scientific kind of way, the way that we teach Pilates. And so that's my little caveat, is for anyone that might be watching and listening into your story, that your story is incredible. It's amazing. And it's honestly pretty much the norm at the studio, at my studio, at A Beautiful SurpriZe. And to see someone come in, and I'm gonna let you tell your story, and have such a vast 180 kind of a turnaround, I guess I'll say, within just a handful of months, it's incredible. It's the reason why I teach. And it's the reason why when you said, how do we spread this awesomeness all around the world? I said, well, let's start with a Facebook Live.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we'll continue out, right? So that's just my little caveat as you're listening to Matt's story and you maybe have been through some of the things that he has been, or know someone that has, to have a little bit of hope and to know that wiping decades off your body is absolutely possible. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely is. I would agree with that. It's been a huge journey for me. I mean, it's only been 11 months, I believe, at this point. I think it started last September. But yeah, I mean, I'm 46 years old. My name's Matt Dallins. Was a traveling salesman up until this year, and now I do mostly internal management. But I sit a lot, as a lot of us do, and sit behind a computer, sit behind a desk. Before that, I was sitting in an airplane or sitting in a car. And I had gone through 2 back surgeries. And that's really what prompted me to get to Pilates. In 2016, I had a microalectomy on my L3, L4. And I was pretty much kind of out of commission for 4 or 5 months. I mean, I was out of bed within 6 weeks or so, but I was afraid to do anything. I was scared to death of re-injuring myself. And so I kind of didn't do a lot. And probably that's what possibly led to the second microalectomy in 2020 of my L4, L5, was I never did anything to really strengthen my back. And so after the second surgery, I asked my surgeon what I should do and what I should be looking to do to not have to do a third surgery, because they said if I came in again, I would be looking at a fusion this time of those vertebrae, and I didn't want to go through that. And so I asked if I could do yoga, because I had previously done some yoga back in 2013, 12, right in that range. And they actually recommended Pilates. And I had no idea what Pilates was. I knew that it was an exercise. I knew there was some springs involved. I didn't know. I kind of thought of it like yoga on a machine. But I found your studio. You happened to be one of the few studios that was closer to me. And when I reached out, you seemed to know kind of what I was going through and what I should be looking forward to do. And so, yeah, that's how I ended up doing Pilates with you. I started out very weak. Obviously, I came in to you doing private lessons, and as you may remember, not being able to walk for very well coming into the studio, or out of the studio for that matter, for a little while. But I thought it was doing something, so I stuck with it, and it's done me a world of good. I think I'm probably stronger now than I was 10, 12 years ago, before I had my back surgeries. I feel more flexible. When I was doing yoga, I felt flexible, but I never felt strong.
Yeah.
And that's probably the biggest difference between when I was doing yoga and now. I feel like I've gained muscle and I've gained flexibility, and I'm not really scared to do things with my back anymore. So.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks for sharing. There's so many things that I'm taking notes as you're talking here as well. And I'll say, oh, hey, Steph, I'll say definitely leave some comments. If you have any questions for Matt or myself, definitely post it, and I will do my best to show it here. I was sharing with Matt when I have like this technology here, like two of my favorite Pilates humans.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, right. Like, okay.
Thanks, Steph.
Yeah. I feel so professional when I can do that. But I was going to say, when you heard the word Pilates and you knew that it involved spring somehow, somewhere, right? Then you're probably pretty ahead of the curve that you knew that already.
Probably.
Yeah, because one of the first things that so many of us Pilates teachers hear when someone asks about, what it is that you do, and I still have family members that are like refer to the yoga that I teach. Don't correct it, it's fine. But Pilates is nothing like yoga. I mean, there's some similarities, but it's nothing like yoga. We'll summarize it there. And so the fact that you knew that ahead of time, and that's no diss to any other modality, right? I teach several other modalities. I'm considering, I don't know, maybe this is just me TMI all the time, but looking into bringing some yoga into the studio even more than I have in the past. I think that it's an amazing practice and has a place in the world. So there's my disclaimer. But I think that you touched on something right there at the very beginning where you started talking, where you said you had no more fear about, right? And it's the basic movements. So unfortunately, a lot of people seek out Pilates and they start doing it when they, like you said, I would roll out of bed and be like, this is what I hear a lot. Couldn't walk. I would shuffle my feet. I would be hunched over. I would be in pain until the hot water in the shower could hit my back. And very conscious of what's going on in our body physically. And so that's ultimately the whole idea, is that we learn a way to move so that everything else you do in life is it's amplified. It's so much better. And so I think you just tapping on that and touching on that is like mic drop, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's not just though the exercises and the ability and the feeling stronger and the flexibility and all these things. It's also some of going through the growth during the exercise. I think for me, part of it is not just the act of currently at this moment feeling stronger or more flexible, but while doing the exercises, I could kind of test my limits. I knew I'm like, okay, if I can roll over into this position and do this, I can probably, lift a piece of wood to work in the garage, or I can get on my bike, or I can. And so it was like being able to continuously test out my back in a controlled environment and say, okay, if I can do that, I can do this, versus just kind of, going in and doing something that's not related to movement per se, not a functional movement. You never know how that's going to translate into doing something else. And so doing these movements and kind of knowing what they were doing and why I was doing them, and then being able to relate them to a real world and say, okay, well, if I can squat and do this, then I can do this. And I could relate that to kind of what was going on in my life, and knowing what I was allowed to do and what I couldn't do.
Right. So what's coming up for me as you're saying that is that is really how we try to teach at A Beautiful SurpriZe as well, is that we're not just taking you through a workout, right? And telling you to do this movement sequence so that you get a workout and then you go back into, let's say the real world after that. But teaching really functionally, the reason why you are doing this specific kind of movement is so that you can then do XYZ out in the real world. And then what happens is neurologically, you start to connect with, so exactly what you said, I can take this piece of wood and lift it up into my garage. I can, inhale as I whatever I'm going to do, rotation, whatever it might be, and connect my Pilates breath, because it really is taking all of those little key pieces and bringing it full scope so that it's mental, right? It's the mind-body connection. And the way that we know Mr. Pilates wrote in Return to Life, and to connect the breath with the movement. And so that you're connecting and using and firing the movement pattern in a specific way that just by default gives you a kick-ass workout. Right?
Yeah, it definitely does do that.
Yeah, the workout is kind of the byproduct of learning how to move really efficiently in life.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, there's just function to it. I played football when I was younger and did a lot of weightlifting, and you kind of go in and you're just like, I need to lift this large piece of metal this many times and make, these 12 muscles in my body bigger. And, you focus on those things. And the problem is that I've found is that, if you make the two big muscles in your back really strong, but you twist or do something silly that maybe you shouldn't be doing, you don't have all the other support to go along with it, and the other support muscles and the tiny muscles and everything else that's protecting that spine. And, I'm not saying you should go out and do stupid things with the back after surgery, but at least if you do that, there's some support for it. Whereas when I was just lifting, it was like, okay, I can do this, and I can lift this big piece of metal up and down 4 times, and that was that. I feel like I can kind of put myself into any situation now and be able to support my overall body.
Yeah, you really integrated the work, so to speak, right? Where, I mean, speaking as a personal trainer as well, I love to lift things up and put them down, so to speak. But I know how to do it very safely, and that's how I kind of teach through Pilates as well. And honestly, I probably for a little over a decade now, I've moved all of my clients over to Pilates because I found it more effective personally to move my clients there. And that's where like the studio was even born and built from, and having this brick and mortar now. But also like having this true love of the weights and of all of the other modalities that we can bring into it. Because I know you did cycling, you did, like you mentioned, yoga, you did other things. And so that's the idea, is a lot of people will come in wanting to rehab in order for them to get back into the real world, or in order for them to get back into their sport. And then they find that they fall in love with it, just as you did, and they do both. And it's an ongoing kind of everlasting, let me do this until, I'm 117 years old.
I would say my bike would disagree with you. I haven't been back on it very much in the last year. I've kind of fallen in love with doing the Pilates more. And so instead of taking 100-mile bike rides, I take 2 or 3 classes at a time. So I haven't quite got that split between the two yet.
Yeah. And that's okay if you don't, right? Sometimes I think that a lot of people come in, that's the idea. Fix me so I can go do this other thing. And then they fall in love with Pilates. And that's actually pretty common as well.
Yeah.
And just to touch on just again what I said at the very beginning, in case you weren't here, if you have done Pilates before, or you have heard of someone doing Pilates somewhere else, and it wasn't like this life-altering, I can't believe I've lived my whole life without this kind of moment, then consider another place, consider another teacher or studio, and see, like, if this is resonating with you, you can reach out to me. I'll drop my link down into the comments, and to get started. I think that you came into Pilates, doing Pilates with me in a different kind of way, where most people have been studying or been watching me, or been, watching my lives or my Facebook or Instagram, or have been hearing the word Pilates for a very long time. Quite often they've been doing Pilates somewhere else before they ever walk in and start doing sessions with me, or they come in from a very direct referral. And you came in this a little different, where you literally, I still remember you called, and that night I happened to be in the studio. I had an open half hour in between. You popped in, You signed up, we started rolling, and you hit the ground running. And I know that's kind of your personality. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
Right? So if you could maybe, I'm going to ask you, if you could maybe, I'm trying to figure out how to frame this. How would you encourage someone that's considering this, right, to maybe just go for it? Because it is, for you, it was kind of like, oh, I'm just, I trust my surgeon. This is recommended. I'm going to go in. I might as well try it. I have this, can I say, like, I've been threatened with a third surgery.
Yes, that's very accurate.
Right. But for someone else, just kind of like, I don't know. And they're just, for a lot of people, it is, it's a big decision. It's a huge commitment. It's a commitment in time. It's a commitment in money. And so what would you say just to someone that might be kind of on the fence right now, or just like super curious about it, in order to like go for it, just like you did?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. I mean, the easy answer is just do it. But that's not probably the answer everyone wants to hear. I would say that, so I'm a former fat kid. I was a big guy. I peaked out like 300 pounds, but I've done weightlifting. I've done cycling. I've done yoga. I've done quite a few other things. This just it felt to me like it kind of joined a lot of things together. It joined the weightlifting together with the yoga, the combination of the flexibility of that yoga can provide to you with the strength that weightlifting can provide to you. And it allows you to kind of feel accomplished. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but it made me feel like everything was obtainable. Because the support of the machine, the support of the people, and the way the exercises are designed to kind of progress, I always felt like I was accomplishing something. And I mean, that's probably, it's like the little treats when you're playing, Candy Crush or whatever, and you accomplish a little more, and it kind of keeps you keeps that serotonin going, kind of keeps you excited about it. It kind of provided that, because you're always feeling like you can do a little bit better and a little more, and you don't feel defeated quite as easily. But I mean, it's accessible, I think, is the biggest thing for me. Is you've obviously got a wide breadth of people in the studio, from very young and healthy to older and healthy, that maybe not as flexible as they were in their 20s and 30s, 40s, and now they're in their 60s and 70s, and they're still being able to do it. And I found that rather hopeful, that there was a way of still continuing to do something that would allow for this flexibility and strength, and still do it into your older years. And there's not many other things I've been able to see that will do that when I was doing it, and with the same amount of attainability. And so it doesn't hurt anything to try. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Yes, it's a little bit of time. Yes, it's a little bit of money. But once you get in there, you realize what it'll do for you pretty quickly.
Yeah, what I'm really realizing now that you are speaking upon as well. And when you say people, I assume you're talking about the other teachers that are at A Beautiful SurpriZe, my employees.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's really the culture as well, which I know you've only been exposed to our culture. So maybe if I could just like offer that up as well for anyone that has been somewhere else and maybe didn't feel as comfortable, or maybe felt like I'm given this one thing and I can't do that one thing. So I'm just going to wait, if I'm in a group setting until everyone else is done, and then I can join in again. Or maybe don't see the progress, literally every single session that truly can be made. And so we do teach, it's kind of built into the system. We teach the exercise, the full blown exercise. Can't quite do it just yet in, really great form. Here's the regression. Here's where we're trying to get to. And like you said, you don't need any equipment at all, right? Pilates actually is your body and gravity. And then you use the equipment to help support you, and then you get into the advanced exercises. But that really it's kind of built into the system. And so that you leave each session feeling accomplished, feeling like Okay, here's just like here's what I tell my teachers. I'm just gonna give away my spoiler, like my I don't know, some secrets, whatever. The bulk of the class should feel like, ooh, that was hard, but I did it.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of the class should feel like, all right, let's get going. I'm ready. I'm here. I'm mentally here. I've left the outside world out. I forgot about my grocery. I forgot about everything else I have to do. And then a little tiny bit of the class should feel like I was terrified for my life for about 30 seconds. Like let's push you. Let's go to your edge. Let's go to where you think your edge is, and then stand on the other side and support you and help you do something that you maybe would have never thought was ever possible, but dang, you just did it. And I think that's what you're kind of sensing also there. And so I think that's also something that we really try to harness, and that I want to help facilitate my teachers to be able to teach, which is harder than it sounds with each person. But to leave, just like you said, feeling supported, feeling like I trust the teachers, I trust their education, I trust that they got me, that what they're telling me is something that's not only safe, but something that actually is progressing me to, lifting even bigger, heavier pieces of wood up into my garage.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Okay, we have a couple of questions coming in here, so I want to make sure that I hit them. Oh, here's Margot's comment. Hi, just got here. Let both of you count. Hey, Margot. You're so sweet. Okay, so I think I referred to this one. I get a lot of people coming in saying that their doctor referred them, or that their surgeon referred them to us. And I love working with surgeons, or doctors or PT or whatever it might be. Most of the time when people come in to me specifically, they have been referred, and honestly, they've heard my name, they've heard A Beautiful SurpriZe out there in the world, or not specifically to me. And I would love to develop that relationship with surgeons and doctors. I know that as Pilates grows in the world, and we continue to, to quote Matt, spread this awesomeness around the world, that more and more physicians can link up directly and have communication with Pilates teachers locally in their area, as well as, again, virtually through Zoom and everywhere else out into the world. But to answer your question specifically, Steph, Matt's doctor did not, your surgeon mailed?
No, I called I called a few places, and Chantel answered the phone, and she asked me questions. And to be honest with you, that's what really kind of made it happen. Every other studio I called, not Pilates studio, but just as I was looking for physical therapy, most everybody was like, come on down, we can talk about a membership, we can talk about this, we can talk about this. But Chantel took the time to start asking me questions right from the beginning. She, where was your surgery? What did you do? What have you done before this? And started kind of asking more personal questions about what I was looking for, rather than, hey, come on down, let me sell you a membership. And then it just happened to work out that she was at the studio, so I went down there and continued the conversation in person. But I was just referred to Pilates in general.
Yeah, I love that. It kind of speaks to what we were just talking about, right? Where you're not just a number. We actually take the time to do a full intake to get to know you, your history, your goals. And then we really have, like for myself, for example, myself, like losing words. I've been teaching for 18 years, and not only just Pilates, but really well versed in the way that the body moves. And so 18 years worth of continuing education as well, and moving and working with different bodies, that it's rare for me to have anyone come in now that has, anything presenting that I haven't actually worked with already. And so I have kind of that lens from this side of it, but then also keeping up on continuing education. And so that it really speaks to exactly what you're talking about, the culture of it. So that's interesting. I didn't realize that that's what kind of drew you in also, as the questions.
Yeah. I mean, I come from a sales background. And so a hard sell is never a good sell, in my opinion. You should find out what you're trying to resolve and what kind of thing you're trying to solve first. And so you asking the questions is really kind of what brought me in, because you were trying to solve a problem, not trying to sell me a membership. And
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that, and I'm grateful that I'm in a place now also where as I am building my team and bringing more people in, I really want those that are there now to feel safe, to feel supported. And so anyone else that we bring in also kind of can move at that same vibration, so to speak, right? So, and vetting, for lack of a better word or lack of a different word, to make sure that who I'm talking to on the phone, is this worth your time to come down? Is this worth my time to meet you down at the studio and show you around and make sure that we're just a fit for each other just by having this conversation and asking a few questions?
Yeah, and I mean, from there, it's part of the other reason I've kind of stuck with this is I'm sure there's a lot of other good places and good studios and exercise facilities, et cetera, but the camaraderie from people like with Margot and Steph and yourself, Kara and Jordan, there's always been something that somebody's brought in that has just made the camaraderie even that more fun. Because working out by yourself, when I was cycling, I love cycling. I love the distance, going 100 miles at a time, but it was kind of boring. You're not really talking to anybody and you're just kind of out zoning out to yourself. And it's not quite as much fun as having five other people in the class and you're kind of pushing each other and riffing off each other. And it just makes a lot of fun. So.
Yeah, I think the community aspect, right? Whenever you work out with someone else or you move with someone else, you tend, like, it's the same thing as hiring a personal trainer, is you tend to perform more. You tend to want to do better. And again, that's something that I'm instilling in all of my teachers as well, is that we teach and not cueing, do this for me, 2 more reps for me. You're doing this for you, right?
Yeah.
I'm here to facilitate it.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly what you're saying. I think that I want to touch just a little bit about how, I mean, it is also just your nature. You came in eager, super curious. Let me try this. I don't know. And what you said just a little bit ago, where you left the first couple of times, like, I don't know. This is like, right. And it does take a good handful of sessions before you're like, all right, I think I kind of get it. But at first you leave, at least the first 2 sessions, like, I worked incredibly hard and the teacher said a bunch of words to me and I'm not sure exactly what happened, right? It's a little bit of a culture shock at first if you haven't been doing classical Pilates, and we teach both at the studio. And so that curiosity and the intensity at which you approach everything in life, I think, led you to then go on and sign up for our teacher training program and to actually be a student now. And so I just even mentioning that and saying that out loud, I want to celebrate you that you were willing to take it that next step where, let me just learn from a very microcosmic kind of viewpoint as to every single exercise, and let me break it down. Let me understand why we do what we do and why we're teaching, and that it's a specific number of reps. And if we are using springs, a certain number of springs, and where we inhale, where we exhale, where we like all of the the little tiny the word starts with an I, but I can't think of it right now. Like in yeah, I'll think of it later.
It'll come to you.
But like very, very specific kind of movements. And let me learn one so that I can understand in my own body even better. And then 2, I'm going to say it again, because you've fallen in love with this Pilates method. And then how can I let other people know that this exists? And how do I spread this awesomeness into the world? And so
yeah, I mean, you can't spread it if you don't know what you're talking about, right? So it just I thought about it a couple times and kind of had it sit in the back of my head for a month or so, and then Kara had mentioned something about I should consider it, and I was like, okay, let's do it. It seemed very the right time. Everything kind of like came together. It was resonating together as far as me thinking about it and her suggestion, and it just kind of popped together. And I really enjoy it. I want to know more about it. I want to know more in depth about it and why everything kind of works the way it does. And the best way to do that was to become a student method,
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Stephanie. Intrinsic. That's the word I was looking for.
There's our vocabulary for the day.
I think you spelled it correct. I was like, the word was here, and then when it went to come out of my mouth, I couldn't think of it. So yes, thank you, Steph. Intrinsic was the word I was looking for. Yeah, I think that, and I'll mention it's Pure Body Teacher Training, and I'm a host studio for Pure Body Teacher Training, and now going through a year's process of bridging in to become faculty with Pure Body, so then I can teach as faculty through them. And so having you in there and then having you be able to sit through now, I think 4 or 5 modules and watch all of these aha moments for you to see it from the other side and to understand at such a deeper level, it's really inspiring. And I think that just you here talking about this right now is going to inspire so many other people as well to get a little bit more curious.
So, I mean, that's one of the reasons I agreed to talk to you is I want other people to see that, you can be an overweight old man and still come into the studio and learn something and how to move and how to, not feel as old.
How to not feel as old. That sums it up. Yeah.
That sums it up.
Before we hopped on, I was asking Matt because I was reading his testimony that he had written for me. And he said, feeling better than decades ago. And I even put it in this banner that I'll put across. And so I was asking him, sometimes it's hard to quantify feelings, right? Where he said, I'm feeling better than decades ago. And so I asked him to if you could possibly quantify that, and I'll ask you again. I
very well last time you asked me.
I mean, I'm not going to ask for a 0 to 10 or something, but.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I think I'm stronger than I've been probably since 10 years ago.
Pre-surgeries, yeah.
Yes, 2 surgeries ago, and biking and a number of other things. I definitely have the ability of I can work around the garage, I can work in my car, I can work in my wood bay and not feel like I'm going to be haggard the next day and tipping over and walking with a cane. I'm not really afraid to go out and, put myself in a position where I agree to go hiking or go do something else and be like, well, I'm going to be punished the next week for that because I'm not going to be able to do it. And I haven't felt that way for probably at least, I had my surgery in 2016 and I was having back problems for at least 2 years before that, before I finally bit the bullet to do it. So, I mean, at the best case scenario, 2014, I haven't felt this good. And I would say I'm probably stronger than I was for the 4 or 5 years before that as well. And definitely more flexible. So it's been a good amount of time since I felt this good.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a good way to kind of summarize this into, kind of bring it all together, where for anyone that might be watching and feeling, just like you said, a little fearful to go out and do all of the things that you used to do because you're afraid of what might happen the next day. Oh, I can do it maybe, and maybe be in a little bit of pain, but then I'll pay for it after. And so there's actually a way that we can teach you to move and to breathe and to really de-age yourself.
Yeah, and I think, again, going back to what I said earlier, I think the biggest thing is when I had my first surgery, I was very afraid to do anything because I was worried about hurting myself again. Because you get out of surgery and the first thing they tell you is don't do anything stupid because you're going to pop the disc again. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. And you kind of get in this mindset of being very timid with everything. And by the time that timidness kind of becomes a routine, you're 6 months in past your surgery and you've done nothing to strengthen the muscles that they've trimmed or cut or opened up or that you haven't worked. And I was able to kind of go into this 5-6 weeks after my second surgery. I started with you, and we were able to kind of progress slowly but safely and not feel as timid. And like I said, so it's not just the physical point of being stronger or more flexible. it's the journey of getting more strong and flexible, and knowing what you can do as you're moving along, and not getting out of the mindset of being completely afraid of doing something, because then you end up never doing anything, and you get to the point where I was, where you didn't do anything to strengthen your back and avoid the second surgery. So anybody who's got the back pain that they're afraid to do something because of the back pain, they don't want to make it worse. I would say that you in Pilates, with with good teaching and good use of the apparatus, you have the ability of gently getting into that motion and testing the waters slowly until you get to the point where you're confident enough to do what you really want to do.
Such a good analogy to life, right? Enjoying the journey, but also really having an amazing, a little bit of like butterflies in my belly goal, right? Like something, is it attainable? Is it possible? And you didn't even have this thought process at the beginning of it of like, let me shave 12 years off my life.
Oh.
But now for someone knowing that and coming into it, and this is coming up for me, so I'm just going to say it right now. I usually say something just like I have throughout this entire life, where I say something like, if you've tried Pilates and it wasn't life-changing, then seek out another studio or seek out another teacher. Yes. And let me just say that I'm going to throw my hat in the ring and say, come to A Beautiful SurpriZe, right? Let's have a conversation, because I absolutely know what I'm doing. I absolutely have done this so many thousands of times before. And as incredible as your story is, Matt, your story really is the norm for someone that walks through the doors at A Beautiful SurpriZe. And I'm hoping now that this is our third year in being a host site for Pure Body Teacher Training, and really wanting to, exactly what I'm going to say it for the fourth time, spread this awesomeness into the world. It's the reason why I linked up with Pure Body. They're an amazing company. Their hashtag is You Can Sit With Us. It is just to create even more amazing Pilates teachers in the world, to spread the Pilates world.
Yeah. I did want to say something on here. Guys, you got to come out. I will say from one, going to yoga and always being usually the odd guy in the room, amongst a bunch of women. There are not enough guys. Come down to the studio, and you'll never feel alienated. I will say that. I've never felt once alienated doing Pilates. There's never been a point where it's like, there's that guy again. There's just no other way to put it. And so nobody should ever feel alienated. And I've always felt very welcome at the studio. And so if there's any guys out there that's listening, or if there's wives out there that are saying, hey, my husband won't come down, I highly recommend it. It's definitely worth it.
Thanks for saying that. There's a hashtag, I think, that's Pilates was a dude. And for those people that don't know, Joseph Pilates was a very, self-proclaimed man's man. He was very much a man that created this system, and he called it contrology. And so, we now have adapted it, like, long story, to call it Pilates. And so, I love that everything else outside of that may be a stereotype, but that he really believed that his method would change the world. And he believed that every single person with a body should be doing Pilates, should be doing contrology. So thanks for saying that. I'm gonna, let me put this, I want to kind of end with Tina's comment. She's got one more here, but yeah, guys, get your butts in the studio.
I agree. It's definitely, there's no, that was the other idea I had in my head, was that, this was definitely going to be like a yoga studio from that standpoint of being kind of the odd guy out again. And I've never once felt that way. So I definitely would say, guys, come on down, hang out with me. I take classes pretty much every night. Come on down, and we'll stretch and get some strength.
Yes, I love that. What I'm going to do is I'll drop my link down into the comments. So anyone that's interested in starting, you can click that link. You'll fill out a questionnaire. You can get on my schedule, And, I will have a conversation. And if we're a fit for each other, then I'll invite you to either come to the studio or get into another phone call with me. But if we're not a fit for each other, then I definitely, thankfully, have enough Pilates teachers, references, friends, other studios that I can refer you to. So win-win. All right, let me ask you this, Matt. Anything else? I know you're reading it. I was going to ask, okay, let's pretend you didn't see that for a moment.
Okay.
Anything else? Anything else you want to share, you want to say before I read this amazing comment from Tina?
No, I mean, I think it's definitely worth trying, like I said, for anybody. I definitely think more guys should get involved, but that's a side note. And I will emphasize what you said earlier about Pilates teachers. There is always personalities that click better with certain people, and there are a good amount of teachers at A Beautiful SurpriZe, and but if you're in an area where you're not around Beautiful SurpriZe, don't just give up because you go to the first one and don't click. There's I've played football for coaches I didn't like, and it was never much fun. And it's the same kind of thing when you're doing a workout. If you don't click with the person, you just don't click with the person. And every person will show you something new, something interesting. And they're looking at certain things. And I've learned so much from each one of the teachers that I've been able to study under and see what what they're seeing and what they're seeing in my body and what I'm doing differently, or that could help in a different way. And so don't just go someplace, don't go to the $10 show up once thing and say, okay, this isn't for me, and then run away from it. It is worth trying. Get to somebody you like.
Yeah, I love that. I know I'm not for everyone, and I know everyone is not for me. And so, I have the referrals, I have the other people that I can refer you to. And so, just exactly what you said, if you feel like you resonate, you vibe with me or might with one of my teachers, and you want to maybe just experience a little bit more of what we do. And Pilates is just one of the modalities, one of the many modalities that I teach at A Beautiful SurpriZe. So maybe if you're watching and you are hearing us and you're thinking, this all sounds amazing, but I don't want to do Pilates. Believe it or not, I hear this. People start at other modalities with me, and then they slip over into Pilates. So I'll just slide that in there as well. And one more little plug as well. Even if you don't find something near you, because we do teach virtual now to people all over the world, you can start. You don't need anything more than your body and some gravity, and we can start teaching you, and you will start feeling amazing. So, little caveat there also. All right. So let's go ahead. I was just gonna, oh, sorry. There's so many comments. Okay. Here's the comment I told you to pretend not to read. Matt, you're so cool, and your authenticity will make you a stellar Pilates guide. People will trust and value and your past and perspective. Congrats on your new path. And I think that just kind of like summarizes the whole call, right? I told you I really wanted to celebrate you and this decision that you made to just jump in 2 feet all the way down over the top of your head into it, and then signing up for the teacher training program. Here's Patty.
Thanks, Patty.
I just want to put all the comments up here so we can share, spread the love, spread this awesomeness.
I appreciate that. I hope to spread the awesomeness someday when I am able to fully understand the workings and be able to spread it proper way.
Yeah, you're doing it right now already. There's someone out there right now hearing this and is inspired by you. So thank you for doing this so much. I'm so incredibly, I'm proud of you. I love watching your progress as you come in for teacher training, as you come in every single time for class. I see such an amazing change in you. I see such an amazing progression in you every single time you take a class. And I really think that it comes down to your curiosity around it. And so just celebrating you and thanking you.
Well, I appreciate that, and thank you for that. But I mean, the curiosity comes from wanting to be curious, and that comes from good teachers and a good studio and a good atmosphere that makes you want to be part of it. If you don't want to be part of it, doesn't matter how curious you are, you're not going to be, you're not going to go down that path. So you've always made me feel very invited, and the team has always been great, and they've taught me a lot, and I just want to learn even more. So I'm stoked to be, learning what I can.
I love that. Thank you so much. I will accept that. And I thank you for it. Thank you for saying so. All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and sign off. This live will post onto my Facebook page. I can maybe share it over to Matt's page as well. If you want to come back, listen to it. If you want to mention anyone that you think might benefit from everything that we've talked about, including yourself, if you want to share it, and I will drop my link in the comments as well if you're interested in getting started with me. And with that, I think we'll sign off for the night. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and end the broadcast.
Good night, everyone.
See you, everyone.